Hello and welcome to RecToks with Kyloe. We're at the end of a year, so I thought rather than invite in some amazing guests, we should look within. And therefore, today's chat is with Mr. Gordon Robinson. Gordon recently rejoined Kyloe, and he's our head of product management and innovation. So he's absolutely the right man for us to have a conversation with today around looking maybe a little bit backwards, what's happened, what we've seen in 2023, and then particularly as we look forward to what might be coming down the track in 2024. Well, I certainly think that as I look back on 2023 has been, there's probably a few themes that we've seen, or certainly I've seen, and I think that 2023 was probably the year when automation became mainstream. It became table stakes, and everyone was expected to have it as opposed to be thinking about having it. And I think we've maybe done 40 or 50 different businesses that we've taken on to bullhorn automations during the year. The other thing we've probably found is that's brought data right into focus. So I know, Gordon, we've got data tools, but certainly seen a lot of usage change there, haven't we?
We've seen massive increases. So we were talking about 22 million processes through there last year. Now we're talking 185 million processes through data tools this year. And I think if you've got a digital transformation project, there's two sides to that, but ultimately data quality will be the thing that undermines the entire project. And that's twofold. It's making sure the data's getting in there in the first place. If you're not recording stuff, then it's pants. But if you are recording it and the information that's in there is inaccessible or it's incorrect or it's inconsistent being the biggest problem, or duplicated, then your automation's going to fail or it's going to do wacky and wonderful and crazy things. So yeah, we've seen a lot of people work really hard to put good solid foundations in their digital transformation projects using our data tools products.
Yeah, I think it's always interesting that sometimes simple things can make a really big difference. And there are some things that stick out from the last year where all we did was capitalized people's names consistently, or made sure that the state or the county was right on the record so that people could start to use automations and segment them properly. And when they say, hello, Gordon, or hello, Gordy, they've got capital G at the beginning. And that sounds really basic, but building up the credibility that you have when you start communicating either with hiring managers more laterally or candidates as you go through the year, it was really important that those little things were done. And then that can roll forward into some really large things out there. So that's probably what I see as something. And I think that we ended up in a scenario in 23 where people were willing to say, I have a problem with my data quality, please help.
Absolutely.
Previously, people weren't entirely sure they did, or if they did, it didn't make a difference. It was okay if you had 10 duplicates of a candidate because you weren't communicating with them anyway. But if you turn on an automation and person gets 10 emails to say, hey, how are you? Can we get an update? And they all spell your name without a capital letter, or even worse, all in capital letters, and they don't know enough about you, then that sort of becomes something. So I think 2023, automation became mainstream. What do you think of what's happened in AI in the last year, Gordon?
I think it's amazing. And it's a bit like automation. It was there before, but now it's becoming mainstream. In a year, we've gone from what's AI to what types of AI are there? And I think you look at GPT-4 now, only a year in, and we're on version 4 and what version 4 can do. It's exciting to see where we'll be next year. But I think the story of 2023 in terms of innovation is definitely AI.
Yeah, I've been to a number of conferences and webinars, and there was a while where the way to get a big audience was put AI in your title. And if a webinar had AI in its title, then you got lots of people turning up as they were trying to learn what it was. And maybe one of the things I've taken from it is there are so many different definitions and so many different nuances to what AI can do. And I think maybe the webinars and the interactions or the conferences that I've seen people speaking at, the topic is now cutting through the BS on AI and what can you do that makes a practical change.
I think ChatGPT's brought in is it's made it much more accessible. The problem with that is the knowledge starting from a position where a lot of people don't know what AI is and don't know whether something is or is not AI, and that's a challenge. And I think recently I attended the healthcare staffing summit, and we had a lot of roundtables, and the roundtables that mentioned AI were the fullest one. And that was interesting because the people around the table didn't know what AI was. And so maybe the tables that should have been the fullest ones were, what do we need to learn about? What education and learning development do we need to do next year? And it's a challenge for our customers, a challenge worldwide to understand what AI is, what it isn't, when it's been used, when it hasn't, how it should be used, how it shouldn't be used. I think the best way to put that is we've all got a lot of learning to do. We're not going to get it right first time. We need to learn and share. And I think that there's going to be some rabbit holes that people are going to go down that's going to cost them. So the hardest thing at the moment is people understanding how that best fits. But that's not really different from people understanding how automation best fit 3 years ago. So, I think it's exciting times, really is.
Yeah, well, one of the things in 23 that we did that we're really proud of is we took RecToks and we took it on the road. So just recently we had RecToks live in London and in Bristol with some of our existing customers. And as the discussions evolved, and I'd like to thank everybody who attended and who were so very open with their contributions to the discussions. One thing that came through loudly was for everyone to make sure that they have their policies in place. Now, you can have a policy that says we use AI indiscriminately. I don't suggest that would be the best one, but equally allowing your people in your business to have some guardrails around how they can and should use AI, and in particular with what that means for the data that you store in your database and which data is safe to put into GPT, using GPT as an example. Other large language models exist, but making sure that people had policies in place, that they didn't ignore it, that they included it, even though a little bit like you can have an ISO or SOC 2, as long as you have a policy and you follow it, that's fine. It's when you don't have a policy and you can't control it, then that's something. So one of the points that came through loud and clearly was people getting ready. And then there was a big divergence between businesses who were encouraging their teams to use it as much as they could, and others who actually had it locked down that ChatGPT.com or OpenAI.ChatGPT.com was on the banned list.
So there is already, people think there's not enough legislation around AI. I probably agree that there's not, and the guardrails are not really there. And the risk of that is the guardrails will come in too hard, and we'll have to be being very open and honest and transparent about where AI has been used to generate something and where it hasn't. So I think it will be interesting. And at the moment, everyone's focus is on generative AI language models, but there are other types of AI that people should be looking at, whether that's AI automations, suggestive AI, things that are going to really help people to either be more efficient or in their decision making. And decision making models are not new either. The thing in the past, when we would make a decision making model, we'd put a lot of rules in it manually ourselves, and now we're probably going to have assistance from something that can analyze previous behaviors. But we're not exactly quite there just now. But in terms of forward going towards, that's certainly the direction of travel when you consider that AI is so multi-threaded.
At the beginning of the year, recruiters were still in desperate need to find candidates, and rates that they could get for those candidates were still high. But as the years moved on, I think especially when the tech firms started implementing their reductions in force, there was a change. And now as we close the year, I think everyone's concerned that if we're not already in a recession, that will be a recession coming soon. And certainly we're seeing lots of customers who are putting either hiring freezes on, or they're delaying their investments that they either make in technology or in people into the new year. Gordon, when you were looking at the healthcare staffing summit, how's the year been in healthcare?
It's interesting because the healthcare staffing industry feels that it's struggling, or it's slowing down, but it's slowing down from a Mount Everest size peak, and it's still 3 times higher than it was before the pandemic. So there is still massive opportunity out there. It's probably just going through a slowdown. And we hear a lot of people say we've avoided a recession, or we've just avoided a recession, or we're avoiding a recession at the moment. Are we, or are we just seeing a right sizing in the industries? Are people going, we went out there was a shortage of people, we went and tried to grab everybody that we could. That meant there was a lot of demand for recruiters. And then now we've got those people. We've probably got more people than we needed because we didn't think we were going to get them. It's like panic buying for toilet roll at the beginning of the pandemic. And now we're just seeing a right sizing in terms of demand. I don't know. Certainly, the staffing industry, there's huge. Probably the difference in the staffing industry is there was huge difficulty in trying to find people to fill roles. Now there's difficulty in trying to find roles to add to opportunities to add, and it's become maybe it's flipped a little bit at the beginning of the year. It started to become a bit more difficult for sales, and it was still easy for recruiters. Now it's become more difficult for recruitment side as well as sales. And I think there was still the numbers of the growth numbers were still huge with some businesses. Other businesses have been telling us that they've put hiring freezes on, as you said, and others have told us that they've let some people go. Some have told us that they're just looking at the general how productive for you as a recruiter, and making sure that they're keeping the value in the returning investment on everyone that's in a seat. So I think from a healthcare staffing perspective, we're probably just seeing things start to come back to a sustainable level, which will mean some businesses have got too big. It will mean some people still have opportunity to grow. There's a change as well in terms of what people are seeking. So maybe less travel nursing, more long-term conditions, certainly still more growth in allied health professionals, and that's a worldwide issue. But there's a shortage of healthcare professionals worldwide, so healthcare staffing isn't going to stop being a challenge going forward. It's not as easy a market as it probably was 12 months ago, and that's been the change from the beginning to the end of the year.
Big call out to Jonathan from Gravitas and Anthony from Levin, who are both very, very sharing in their views when they were at RecTok Live in London. And both of them suggested that they were going through a technology spring clean, and they were looking at all the technology that they had and checking that it still offered the value that they were expecting from it, and evaluating that against what they were hoping to achieve and whether it was still needed. So whilst I would be very happy that everyone continued to buy more and more technology, I think there is a time when you can have maybe too much, or your business. Now at Kyloe, we're always trying to make sure that you get long-term client value, or you get long-term value from the products that we put out there. And we're working hard with our success team to make sure that everyone understands where they can maybe add even more value. I'd also say that one of the things that we took from RecTok Live, and thanks very much to Matt Weller from G2V for being in the chair in the Ask Me Anything section, is that everyone thinks that Bullhorn and Bullhorn Marketplace partners are great. No one thinks they're perfect, and there are always a few little bits and pieces that need to be done in inventive ways. So there's always lots of space for inventive ways for companies that maybe have unique situations. We had a very lively discussion about multi-brand in multi-location, and therefore what was needed to be able to accurately report across those brands, those locations in a way that made sense to the end user, and making sure that the end user was getting the information they needed, not too much, and then the manager got the information they needed, maybe not too little, not too much, and then the oversight from either from the boardroom or from the directors were also that they were getting the right information. both backward looking and forward looking. And that was a great discussion that we had there.
And Raymond, that just ties into how important it is that you understand how your tech fits into your business processes, and understanding what business process change you've made and how that's impacting on your tech stack. If you just stick a piece of technology into part of your business, you may not be leveraging the full opportunity that's given to you by that product. Equally, if you change a part of your business, or you downsize or right size a part of your business, you may need more technology, you may need less technology. And I think that's the challenge. But if we could give one top tip to people, it would be to make sure that you tie in those two things together, that business process change or business process and tech are documented together, and how this tech ties together with your business processes.
There
Otherwise,
speaks the product manager in you.
yeah, otherwise this is exactly the problems and challenges that people face, and then come to us. And equally, you remove a piece of the risk is you remove a piece of tech. You got two risks: either you keep a piece of tech and you don't really get any value from it, therefore it's impacting your profitability, or you remove a piece of tech that really was giving you value, but you didn't understand where it was giving you value, and you impact your profitability. So it is a challenge. And businesses are struggling with that, I've no doubt, across the world.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, as we're at the end of the year, let's do our looking ahead into what we should expect from 2024, and what trends we think will continue, which ones we think might stop, and what from a perspective we can expect from Kyloe. So, Gordon, I'm going to throw you in at the deep end. What
So
you reckon is going to happen in 24?
I think 24 is going to be really exciting. I actually think that a lot of people are going to focus quite heavily in 24 on customer experience and candidate experience. So I think it's going to be much more important that people understand the needs and the unmet need of their customer, and be able to identify where there's an opportunity that you haven't been told about yet, which is just difficult. And also, if the challenge is, if we haven't got as many jobs on the books, our candidates will go elsewhere, but they won't go elsewhere if they think they get an outstanding, fantastic experience. So I think that's an area that people are going to be driven towards focusing on. But I think in 24 we'll see continued digital transformation in healthcare and healthcare recruitment, and recruitment in general, particularly in healthcare recruitment. There've got to be some changes made there, as the whole world is changing, as we come out stronger out of the pandemic. But in all staffing sectors, I think there'll be a drive for digital transformation, and we'll definitely see that. I think AI is something that we can't avoid having an impact on us in 24. I think we'll end up with photographs, and we'll have video, and you think of all the new things that can be generated with AI generation. But I think people are going to start branching out and realize next year that AI is multi-threaded, and so how can we look at how we use AI in other areas? And I think that's where the innovation will be next year. Whether that's what recruitment firms are looking at next year, I don't think it will be, but it's certainly, as a technology business like ourselves, that's what the technology that's driving healthcare will be. So that gives you an indication of where 25 will be. But I think within 24, people will need to be harnessing AI. And I think we'll see a continued need for people to improve everything that underpins the ability to have AI and automation into their business. And that really just goes back to the business processes and data quality being well known, well understood, and the value being well understood.
I'm going to be brave, and I'm going to make 3 predictions for 2024. Those 3 predictions are: we're going to get off to a slow start. I think the beginning of 24 is going to be challenging, and people are going to be looking after their money. And during that time, what we saw with people that made changes during the pandemic was the people who took the opportunity of that change to invest in making things better when you come out the other side, because we can be sure there will be another side. There always is. The people who took the opportunity to review, to check, to test items in that period came out stronger. So I think we're going to have a slow start, and we should make sure that you make the most of that opportunity. The second, I believe legislation will continue to appear, and it'll appear in places where I'm not entirely sure the legislators fully understand. So they will have to try really hard to catch up with what AI can do, maybe with what automation can do, maybe with generative video. And I think therefore we're going to see things in the legislation that's going to be knee-jerk, but we're all going to have to deal with them. I know that the Australian government are potentially putting something forward about how much data you can hold. There's certainly people that are being, how did you reach decisions and did it use AI, and can you explain why it came up? It's been around for a while. I think that stuff's going to get deeper and deeper. And then my final prediction, I think we will all have our own AI assistant. That AI assistant will have been learned to talk like us, maybe look like us, be able to write like us, and will have an element of the knowledge that we already have to allow us to make decisions or choices more quickly. What is currently GPT small s allows you to give custom instructions. It allows to give you custom experiences. That's moving into the world of into their APIs, and I think they're calling it AI assistant. I know it's something that we're certainly trying to work with, and I think we will all have our own AI assistant by the end of November 2024 as my predictions.
What about AI in recruitment? So how do you think that AI will change recruitment next year?
Well, I think there are 4 basic areas that it helps recruitment. And the first one is really simple. Help me write something. True creative AI. I would like to write a insert job advert, interview questions, and the basic things that a good recruiter was able to do. It's going to help you do that really fast. And we're already seeing that in lots of positions. Then I think we're going to see AI helping around the summarizing and the selling of the attributes of either candidates or roles to candidates, and therefore being able to get that first summary of why should you candidate be interested in this role? Mr. Hiring Manager, why should you be interested in this candidate? And those things to get better and better and more personalized. So I see that as a summarizing use of AI. Then I think it's going to get into, I think you spoke earlier about opinion based, and it's going to start to offer opinions. That might go as far as, what should I do next? Here's the situation I'm in. What should I do next? Or, can you help me? How difficult is it going to be to find candidates for this role? Or how difficult is it going to be for me to find a role for these candidates? Using the experience that is buried away in the center of all our databases. I think it's going to take that knowledge and it's going to bring it to front so that it can all be used in an assistant style way. And then the final area I see is that there's going to be actionable AI, and there's going to be actions that AI is going to be able to do like an extension of your automation. So you're going to have an automation that triggers a prompt, that triggers AI to do something, and then the AI triggers something else to happen in the process. So your point of workflow, it's going to fit in the middle. AI is going to go in there and help you with decision making, or help you with remembering not to lose contact, or the best things to say. So I think there are 4 stages that we're going to see, as well as the ones that have been on the go maybe for a long time around search and match and helping people source. So that's my view. So as we near the end of the year, thank you to everyone who's worked with Kyloe in the year. We've helped numerous people be either part or whole of their digital transformation. We've got some great customers and people who've become friends as customers that we've worked with throughout the year, and we're going to continue to make you more successful by being a partner with Kyloe. So thank you very much, and hope you have a good festive period.